and it's Q&A time again. And we've had a few questions this week, but before I go into those, the games night session that we had planned for Wednesday didn't happen, so don't be expecting any games being posted from that. Hopefully we can rearrange and get something sorted for another time with the three from Residence and Hospital Radio, but I've had nothing from those. The second video from our last games night with Steve, Each and Scragger will be coming up fairly soon, but for this video let's get on with questions, shall we? Question number one comes from Celestial Vengeance. Right, matey. Celestial Vengeance, I will put the link down in the description for his YouTube channel. At the moment he's currently running a tournament of Dungeon Command. He's done the first lot, which is the Orcs versus the Goblins. I'm not going to say how things are going, but the winner of that one will go on to face another one of the box sets. He's doing solo gameplays. He's just started, so give him a watch, give him a subscribe. It's worth it. Help him out. Like I say, it's his first lot of videos that he's done. So as I say, give him a subscribe, give him a bit of support. That's Celestial Vengeance. And his question was, okay, I've got a question for your Q&A videos. Sorry if it's already been answered, haven't seen all the Q&A videos yet. Well, this is the fifth one, I think. Of all the board and tabletop games you've played, which is by far your most favourite and why? All of them for different reasons. Oh dear Lord. Right, good question. Hard question to answer, but it's a good question. Depends what mood I'm in. Last week we played at the Games Club a game called Dark Gothic, I believe. It's like it's fairly similar to games like Ascension and Trains in a way. It's a deck builder. It's by Flying Frog. And on the side of the box, as we're packing it away, I noticed the logo for Last Night on Earth, and that is one all week I've been wanting to play. So I'm going to be taking that to the Games Club with me tonight, in the hope that we get a gameplay of it. I'm not sure whether we will or not, but I did voice it last week, so hopefully we'll get a game of that. I'm not saying that's my favourite game, however. It's just a bit of a sidestep, digressing slightly. But different games, different moods. I could say Pandemic, but then again I may not be in the mood for Pandemic today, so it could be Zombicide. It's very, very difficult. The games that has the biggest space in my heart is Space Crusade, because it's the one that I started off with. But there are much better games out there. It is a really, really difficult one to answer because there's so many games I like. Just for general mood, because it's a game that I can play solo as well as with other people, I am going to say Sentinels of the Multiverse. Just off the top of my head. Just because, as I say, it can be played solo and it can be played with a group. Because every time you play it's different. But that's just today. Ask me again tomorrow, it might be something different. When I first read the question, I had a different game in mind. there's so many games to choose from. That's the problem. But I think I'm going to say, for today, Sentinels of the Multiverse. Because I think I've just wound myself up with the Castle Ravenloft, Lothbroched, the D&D adventure system games. I've wound myself up with the last section, with the last one I did for that, with all the mistakes I made. So, otherwise I'd have probably said one of those. But yeah, but then again, I could also say that for Ascension. I could also say that for Pandemic. I could also say that for Elder Sign and Zombicide. Don't know. It depends what mood I'm in. I really cannot say, but I think today I would say Sentinels of the Multiverse. I'm going to stick with that one. Oh dear. Hard question to answer. Easy question to ask. Oh well, that's that question out of the way. Next we have... you get down. Get down. Get down. Get down. I'm not talking to you. Go and lie down. Next we have Fluky Killer A, or Fluky Killer 0812. This is a big question. I'm going to read this, as I said, as I usually do with the questions. I read them verbatim, so I'm going to carry on doing that. Thanks for your painting the Drow videos. He's referring to the Dungeon Command Tyranny of Lolth that I've been painting. That were painted ages ago, or repainted ages ago. So it says, thanks for your painting the Drow videos. I'm a new painter and I'm being asked to paint a Drow wizard. I'm self-taught through online instructional videos such as yours, have little real experience in working with paints. I see that you do not thin your paints down or use a retarder. They say more thin layers rather than a single thick layer is better, and that's what I have been working on, but I don't really see that in the way you paint. Any insights or theory into why you did not thin your paints down versus why people say to do it would be greatly appreciated. Last but not least, I have a Vallejo black colour that I was planning on using for the Drow Wizard's cape. My friend requested it jet black. How do you think that would fare with the Citadel Fang and Dawnstone? Would there be enough contrast, or do you think it would look like a blotch of black duty? I think that's supposed to be. Right. In my early videos, I used to say that I'm not a professional painter. I am not, I've not been trained at painting. I'm completely self-taught. The reason I showed the videos the way I did, without me taking the paints straight from the pots, scraping some off, applying it straight to the model, at that time, that was the way I painted at that time. It's not anymore. When I started painting models, I had no one around to show me how to do it properly. There was no YouTube then. I had no point of reference I could go to. There was no what was it? I didn't have a computer anyway. I had no point of reference to turn to. I had no friends. Well, I had no friends. I had no I had no one who I could actually go to ask advice. So I just got the paint straight out of the pots and coloured the models in. It worked for me. All the way through my earlier videos, I would get the paint and brush and say, no, just slap it on. And that's what I was doing. The reason being was all the other videos that are on YouTube, or most of the other videos that are on YouTube, show painting miniatures as some arcane, technical, mumbo-jumbo, jiggery-pokery type of stuff. I wanted to break it down to something easy, just to get people who have never ever picked up a paintbrush and a model and tried painting them before. I wanted to show that you didn't have to have some 78 steps before you could actually put the brush to the model. I wanted to make it look as though you could get half decent results very, very simply. That's the reason I showed that. Plus, as I said, it was the way I painted at the time, but I wanted to make sure that people understood that start off like that if you don't know what you're doing. Just start off like that. There's nothing wrong with starting off like that. You get half decent results if it's a game piece. If you're looking for something for display, that's not the way you go around painting. You go around, you do it properly if you're doing it for display or if you're entering competitions. I don't do any of that. I paint gaming figures for gaming. I didn't see the point at the time of going into great detail of thinning the paints down and doing everything spot on, because I'd be terrified of letting people touch me models after I've painted them for when we're playing. So that's the reason really that I didn't show myself thinning the paints down. I've changed completely from that. I'm hoping over the couple of years I've been doing this that I've shown you how I'm progressing as well with my painting, because it wasn't long before I started doing these videos that I'd started actually collecting and painting again, because I hadn't done any for a long time. And so I just wanted to show at that time that you could actually get away with half decent painting models just by slapping the paint on straight from the pot. Yes, you get better quality if you water your paint down. Yes, you get better quality if you do more than one thin layer rather than one thick layer. I'm not disputing that at all. I wasn't saying that that way is wrong and the way I do it is right. The way I was showing is a way of painting a model, not the way of painting the model. So it was just basically to inspire anybody who is new to the hobby to pick up a paintbrush and not be so overwhelmed by all the processes that they recommend you go through. So it's just a case of saying, yeah, you can get decent results straight from the pot and slap the paint on. Okay, I hope I answered your first part of the question. Now the second part of the question was in regards to the Vallejo black colour and the contrast and comparison with Citadel's Fang and Dawnstone. Well, I haven't the faintest idea how they would compare, because I've never used Vallejo paints. I only use at the moment as GW's Citadel paint range. I've never used any other paint range, so I couldn't tell you that. But what I would suggest is, depending on how detailed you want to go into it. Now I must point out at this precise moment in time, I have actually answered these questions directly to Fluky Killer 0812. I'm just going over this again so everybody can understand why I've done this, and well, it just seemed a good fit in with the Q&A, because I could actually explain why I showed the videos of the way I painted at that time, and also hopefully to help with this the black stuff. But when you paint in black, it's easy to paint black. You get your black paint, you paint it on, it's black. To pick out the detail can be a little bit tricky. Two ways of doing it: you can just paint it all black, and then using the Fang dry brush. That will bring out all the high points, but it still leaves it looking a little bit flat. So what I would recommend is get your black, and then mix in some mid-grey with that black, and then pick out details. If you're doing skin, going over the brow or the cheeks, but not with a big contrast in colour. So you just want it slightly paler. Once you've got all the details on, then mix a little bit more of the grey into it to make it slightly lighter, and do a narrower highlights colour, not covering up all the previous highlight colour. Do that, and then if you feel it needs it again, add a little bit more of the mid-grey in, and then do a paler colour than that, paler shade of the grey than that. It's just really to bring out all the details. Following that, I would then add a little bit of black into some pale grey, just to do the extreme highlights, such as on the face, eyebrows, tip of the nose, and cheekbones. And that would bring it up, hopefully, quite nicely. It's easier said than done. I suppose it just takes that little bit of time to learn how to do highlighting properly. But once you've done that, then a wash with like Citadel's Northern Oil, just to tie all the highlights down together, smooth it out, and make it not look like steps leading up. I think I'm going to have to do a painting video showing how I do, or how I would do black in the line of skin. I think I've got some Space Marine somewhere I can do like a salamander's skin, so I'll show you how I would do black skin nowadays, rather than how I used to do it for those draw videos that I painted years ago. But let's say Fluky Killer 0812, I hope I've answered that question. I know, as I said, I've answered it already in the comment, well, not comment, it was a private message you sent me. I answered it in there, and I hope I've answered that adequately on there as well as on the video here. Good luck to you, matey. Next we have a question from Jack Pitson. His question is, hey, I was just wondering whether you would recommend picking up Dead of Winter. 2 words for you. Hell yes. Definitely. Fantastic game. Even if you've got Zombicide, get Dead of Winter as well. Don't compare it with Zombicides or even other games which have zombies in them. It's not a zombie apocalypse fighting zombie kind of game. There's zombies in it. There's a lot more to it than that. Really good game, really good game. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. So there you go. Next, Crasher 303. I'm saving one. I've skipped one. I'm coming back to this one I've skipped. You are on a sinking ship. You nasty, nasty person, you, for saying things like that to somebody who's hydrophobic and can't swim. You have room for 3 games in the lifeboat. Which games would you save? Expansions count as 1 game. Now, you say expansions count as 1 game, but in Pandemic you can fit the On the Brink and In the Lab expansions in 1 box, which I've done. So that is actually 1 box with 3 expansions in it. And it's the On the Lab expansion actually has everything there to put everything in, so you just need that box. There. So I'm going to say Pandemic In the Lab with the full box thing, so that's 1 box. 1 box with 1 game and 2 expansions in it. 1 box. That's how I've set mine out. There. That's 1 game with 2 expansions in 1 box. That's how the In the Lab expansion's been designed, so it can fit everything in that box. There. So I've wheedled my way out of that one. So Pandemic, On the Brink and In the Lab is all in one box. So that's one. Two would be any of the Adventure System board games, D&D ones, but because of the subject matter I would say Sting of Loath. Sorry, no, Legend of Drist. Sting of Loath is the Dungeon Command one, which I called Legacy of the Drow, which isn't called Legacy of the Drows, it's Legacy of Goblins. It's Sting of Loath was the Dungeon Command. Right, I'm getting myself all confused now. But I will go with Legend of Drist, the Adventure System board game, because it's Drow. And I like spiders, as you may well have noticed. And the third game, it's got to be something that would be played on my own, that can fit into one box. Unfortunately, Sentinels of the Multiverse can't all fit in one box, so I can't use that, even though I said earlier that would be my favourite game at the moment. So I can't go with that one because it doesn't all fit in one box. Oh dear Lord, what could it be? Zombicide. Zombicide, yeah. Any of them. Well, obviously, not necessarily Toxicity Mal, but Zombicide or Prison Outbreak, because they're both standalone games. Well, you need the Zombicide box to play Toxicity Mal. So I would say either Zombicide or Prison Outbreak. One of those two. I haven't played any of the third season ones yet. But they're the ones I would pick because they can be played with other people and on my own. So if I get stranded on a desert island, at least I have games that I can play if nobody else wants to play. And yes, I have not necessarily cheated, but I have worked around your expansions count as one game proviso because you can fit everything in one box for Pandemic. Right, now we have a saga. Steve and Hill have given me 5 questions. Question number 1, have you ever thought of making Zombicide into a bit of a campaign, a bit like the Walking Dead TV series, effectively following a group of chosen survivors through a course of adventures to form a linked mini-campaign game, maybe even putting it all on YouTube videos for us all to enjoy and follow along with you as the games unfold? Yes. Question 2. What are your views on the Games Workshop Uber conglomerate, the early days back in the 90s right through to the somewhat shirk-like business practices of today? My views are apathy, complete and utter apathy. I couldn't care less about Games Workshop. I don't like 40k. I don't like the gameplay. It's too complicated for me to get my head round. I've never played Warhammer. I am tempted, very, very tempted with Age of Sigmar. But it just galls me a little bit, sort of getting more Games Workshop stuff, because the only thing I've bought from Games Workshop, other than paints over the past couple of years, have been Space Hulk, which they re-released a year or so ago. And I wanted that one because I used to have it and got rid of it, and I wanted to replace it. So, and I missed it the previous time it had been re-released. So I turned my back on Games Workshop, other than paint, a few years ago. I've gone over to Mantic, I've gone over to Kings of War, and stuff like that, because it's much easier to remember and to get into my head. So it's really, I couldn't care less about Games Workshop with what they do. It's their business. If they want to do what they do with it, it's down to them. I have no views whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, you can either like them and carry on throwing your hemorrhaging money at them. You can dislike them and carry on hemorrhaging money at them, or you can dislike them and walk away. I chose the dislike and walk away. That's as far as I can go with that one. Question 3, what is your favourite games company? Figure, board games, miniature games, etc. I mean, the company you tend to rave about and buy from most of all. Like Zombicide, and Cool Mini or Not. It's a game I do go on about quite a bit recently. I would say Mantic. I've got Dead Zone, Red Ball, Kings of War, Mars Attacks, Dwarf King's Hold, Kings of War 2nd edition and Dungeon Saga are backed on Kickstarter. I haven't done the latest Dead Zone one, and I haven't done any of the Dread Ball ones. And I think the only game I haven't got from Mantic at the moment is Warpath. But I'll probably be remedying that situation when it comes out again. But I would say Mantic. I know there are a few of the models, a few of the races I don't like the sculpts for, so I don't buy those models. Don't buy that range. In Kings of War, I'm not too keen on the orcs. I don't really like the look of the dwarves. So I haven't got Marauders Army. Haven't got an orc army. I bought the 2-player sets for Kings of War that has the undead versus the Marauders, or orcs, or whatever you want to call them. I got rid of the orcs. I didn't like them. I didn't like the way they were posed. But the undead army is absolutely fantastic. I love the models in the undead army. Much better than Games Workshop's undead army. So yeah, I would definitely say Mantic is my favourite games company. Right, question 4, what is your favourite miniatures company and why? If you're talking miniatures, miniature company as in just a company that makes miniatures and not necessarily a game to go with it, I don't have one, because I don't just buy miniatures. I prefer to invest my time in buying miniatures that go with a game rather than buying third-party miniatures and bringing them into a game. If you're talking about a company that does miniatures and games, Games Workshop do absolutely stunning miniatures. And yes, I suppose in comparison to other companies they aren't the most expensive, but they're just throwing things out and throwing things out and throwing things out, and I just can't keep up with it, can't afford it. Mantic, however, just have a steady increase in what they're doing over different ranges. They're not just focused on one particular thing. So again, I would say Mantic. If your question is to do with miniatures with games and not just a company that just makes miniatures, it's just a company that makes miniatures. As I said, I've not a clue. I don't have one because I don't get just miniatures. If it's miniatures to a game system, then at the moment I would say Mantic. I don't really have much experience with other ones. They kill mini or not with the Zombicide stuff. They're good miniatures, but they're not as highly detailed as they could be. But for complete good quality of miniatures, and for that not incredibly expensive price, Games Workshop. But as I said, it's just a case of the fact that they keep churning out miniatures for the cash cow that is 40k. I think that's the thing that puts me off them, but they are absolutely stunning quality models. I don't know, it's not as easy a question as I thought it could be. Right. 1, 2, 3. The second question 4. Seriously. Question 1. Have I thought of making Zombicide into a bit of a campaign? Question 2. What are your views on Games Workshop? Question 3. What is your favourite games company? Question 4. What is your favourite miniatures company and why? Question 4. What are the top 3? I think he's slightly misnumbered these questions. I think this one should be question 5. What are the top 3 things that disappoint you most about the hobby as a whole today? Are you trying to make my head explode? I'm having to think about things. Right, so too much choice, not enough money. Is one of them. It's also the main reason why I don't go to any of the games conventions like Salutes or anything like that, because I would be one of these people who go around and end up in tears after about 10 minutes because I can't afford to buy everything there. Second thing that disappoints me most about the hobby as a whole, take for example the release of Age of Sigmar. Games Workshop did the good thing of bringing in the end times for Warhammer and bringing that to a close, and then restarting it with something different. The thing that really disappoints me is all the blind negativity that has been blasted because it's not what people expect. I think just the negativity of something new, rather than waiting to give it a chance, see how it goes, you just slam. People just criticise, slag off, complain. Negativity in general is something that really does disappoint me about the human condition at the moment. Everything has to be people just seem to savour being negative about things, and it just drags others down. For a third, for the kind of gamer I am, these questions are very, very difficult. I don't have the knowledge of the industry too much to actually be able to think about things in such a way to answer these questions properly. I've said in an earlier Q&A that I don't see myself as a gamer. I see myself as just a very enthusiastic amateur. I'm not very good at games. I'm not very good at gaming. I'm not very good at remembering rules. I'm not very good at learning rules. for me, it's the sitting down and enjoying the experience of playing a game with friends. That's the whole thing with gaming for me. The industry side of it I'm not really fussed with, but it doesn't have to be the industry side of it, it's just the whole gaming hobby in general. So I've covered, so my first one would be too much choice, not enough money. The second one is the negativity directed at new things. Thirdly, established companies turn into Kickstarter rather than investing the money that they have from the games and ploughing it back into the company to release more, if you get me drift. Kickstarter is, for me, or the way I understand it, Kickstarter is a company to allow people or companies to release something new, to get themselves a foot in the door, raise money for a project that they want to do, that they've had no experience, they've no funding or anything like that. It's just a way of raising the funds to get a new thing on the go. Mantic's guilty of this, obviously. Cool Mini are not guilty of this. They've turned into Kickstarter for every new thing they want to do. They're already established companies. It disappoints me rather that they're not actually taking the money that they've got and ploughing it back into the company. I mean, I may be wrong. I mean, it's just the way I may be seeing things, but I think once you're established, you shouldn't be relying on crowdfunding projects. You should be able to market your own things and plough the money back that you've already got from the sales of things. But as I said, it could be because I don't know the industry all that well why I'm saying this, but that's the thing that disappoints me. Established companies resorting to Kickstarter, where I think Kickstarter should be for new companies to help get themselves established. Hope I've made that clear. And finally, what they've labelled question 5, it should be question 6. Do you think the hobby has lost its naive innocence over the years, or has it improved? If so, why? Right, yes, it's lost its naive innocence over the years, because games, as time has gone on, has been the domain of children and families, and now it's a social experience. It has improved because of that. No longer are you playing games and being looked at as an outcast. Gaming has become more and more acceptable, it's become big business, it's become so very popular on YouTube in society. And yes, it has improved, it's got better because of it, and thankfully the naive innocence has gone. For the most part, the naive innocence has gone. I think the naive innocence, I'm saying the most part naive innocence has gone. I think it's been destroyed. Which is to me it's a good thing. Because in fact no, it's not really been, it's not really been destroyed because you still get the family-friendly, child-orientated games that we used to play. I used to play when I was kids. Operation's still going strong. I'm not sure what I could plug, but you're still getting variations of the older games, and they're bringing it up into make it a bit more challenging. And that there's I think it's a 3D Ludo or something like that, where you're going all over, everything's so. The tracks are actually curved upwards and things like that. And then you've got Connect 4, where you've got the one that you launch, I think it's called, where you actually launch the discs into a horizontal tray. It's making it much more interesting, because board games and tabletop games and things like this have to compete with video games. Video games, the money that's going into video games is ridiculous, and the naive charm, shall we say, naive innocence, as you put it down, has to take a step back, I suppose, to try and compete with video games, because it's so simple. Put a plug in, press a button, and you're off. Whereas setting up a game to play takes that little bit of time. There has to be something that a little bit more special, a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? A little bit different from the traditional games that we used to play, but yeah, it's things have improved dramatically over the years. As I said, the experience of playing a game now is much better than it was. As I said, there's games clubs opening up, there's game stores opening up. Martin MacLeod's Wargame shop and club is hopefully, fingers crossed, well on its way to getting opened. Wigan Wargames, well, they're going later. That's been running for quite a few years now, and there's game cafes opening up across America, and there's a few opened up here in Britain. It's getting a really, really popular hobby, and rightly so. It's a much better hobby than just sitting in front of the TV playing on your computer game systems. You're sat around a table, you're interacting with other people, you're having a laugh, you're making friends, whereas you can't do that online to the same extent. So yes, it's improving, and yes, the naive innocence has gone over the years, but as I say, it's all for the better, all for the better. I hope I've answered the questions in the way the questions were asked. I hope I've understood the meaning of these questions. Thanks for everybody who's asked a question. I'm going to run through now. The first one was Celestial Vengeance. As I said, his the link to his site, YouTube site will be put in the description box. Then we had Fluky Killer 0812, Jack Pitson, Crasher 303, and finally Steve and Hill. Yes, I know, with Crasher 303s I did cheat a little bit, but he said a box. I explained why I picked the way I did. So, as I said, I hope I've answered all the questions adequately enough for you, and hopefully we get more for next week. But until next week, because that's the end of this Q&A session, please add more questions into the comment section below, I will look forward to reading them, and I'm trying to answer them as best as I can for next week. So until then, as always, take care, God bless, and bye for now.